Hi, second grade social studies teachers. My name is Kelly, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the Rules and Laws unit for second grade social studies. This is the second social studies unit of the year and is designed to take between 11 and 13 days. You can take a look at the question map that shows you the compelling and supporting question outline, and you can also use the Rules and Laws slideshow as you go through the lessons. The big focus for this unit is to explore the compelling question: do we have to have rules and laws? The goal of this unit is for students to really dig into the reasoning behind laws, how they're created, and how the government is set up. This way, by the end of the unit, students are able to provide a strong answer to the compelling question. There's a handful of social studies standards for this one, centered around inquiry, behavioral science, civics, and economics. Here we can see our supporting questions that go along with our compelling question. This unit is divided into chapters, as you can see here. Each chapter is directly connected with one of the supporting questions. You can see the lessons that are assigned with each chapter, as well as the total amount of days required to teach the chapter. Chapter 1 lessons focus on what are rules and laws. We're going to learn about rules and laws and consider the importance of each. Lesson 1 begins with a book about rules, such as What If Everybody Did That? Or Bella's Rules, or really any other book that talks about rules and the importance of that. Then you ask the students, do we have to have rules? Give students a chance to think about it before responding. You might want to try a think, pair, share, or a quick write. You may also want to define the word rule if needed. From that point, create a T-chart with rules we like on one side and rules we dislike on the other. And you can use some of the rules from your classroom or school, or we can use rules in home. The next thing you can do is have students look through a scenario or more in small groups and talk about what the problem is and how the problem could be fixed. Then review the question, do we have to have rules? Hopefully the learning in the scenarios will help students answer this question. In Lesson 2, we focus again on what are rules and laws. So in Lesson 1, we explore the concept of rules. Now we're going to add in the concept of laws. So we're going to look at the definition of each, look at examples of each, and then that there are consequences for breaking a rule and consequences for breaking a law. End this lesson by having students draw or write about a rule or law that they think is important. Chapter 2 focuses on the importance of rules and laws, so we're learning about how do rules and laws help us and what happens if rules and laws are not followed. We're going to think like political scientists. You can bring back the thinking like a social scientist aspect from the inquiry unit. In Lesson 3, students look back on the 4 scenarios from Lesson 1, and we can think about if having a rule would have solved the problem in each scenario. Then move on to which social scientists would be most interested in rules and laws. Continue to explore the concept of how different rules and laws can help, like in a game or an Iowa law of wearing a seatbelt. Then ask students to pick a rule from the like and dislike T-chart that was used in the previous chapter and have students create a response as to how it helps in daily life. In Lesson 4, we look back at the scenarios again, and this time we're going to focus on Scenario 2. Talk with the students about what they think will happen to the students who are playing tag, and review the idea of negative consequences for when rules and laws are not followed. Then talk about what can be done when someone is not following the rules and laws. This might be a good time to connect in your classroom practices of conflict resolution or the steps to take when something isn't working. The formative for Chapter 2 happens during Lesson 3 when students are creating a response based off of one of the rules from the like and dislike T-chart. In Chapter 3, students learn about our government. We focus on how we decide on rules and laws and how rules and laws are made in our country. In Lesson 5, we start by looking at the supporting question 3, how do we decide on rules and laws? The next activity that's listed in the lesson plan is something that was completed during the inquiry unit. You can either repeat the activity using a different topic or simply just reflect back on how the activity went. Then you talk about how classroom voting relates to our country, which is below the next set of dashed lines. Lesson 6 takes 2 to 3 days to complete, and we focus on how rules and laws are made in our country. So this is when we can talk about the Constitution, and we learn about the 3 branches of government. Students will complete the What Does My Government Do worksheet, in which they learn about the 3 branches and what it looks like at the town, state, country level. There's a word bank at the bottom of the worksheet so that students can copy the words into the correct location. The goal for this lesson is for students to understand the basic responsibilities of the 3 branches, that there are 3 levels of government, town, state, and national, and that there are roles for each branch in each level of government. You don't need to go any deeper than that. As you're having students go through the worksheet, you continue along with instruction over the 3 branches. So the legislative branch we know creates the laws. And there's various texts you can use from PebbleGo in the Social Studies U.S. Government section. Make sure you talk about who has the main role in the legislative branch. And there are links on the side here to find who has what role in the legislative section. When you talk about the executive branch, you're going to talk that they are the ones who enforce or implement the laws. There are links to the side to be able to see who's in charge of the various levels of government in the executive branch. There's also some more information in PebbleGo's social studies section, and it's helpful to remind students that the executive branch are not necessarily the rule makers like the legislative branch, but they're more the authority figures. Then talk about the judicial branch. They interpret laws and figure out the consequences. Again, there's a PebbleGo resource, and there's some links on the side. Be sure to talk about county courts and state courts just briefly, as well as mentioning the Supreme Court. And again, the judicial branch is going to be more of the authority figures and not the rule makers. Lesson 7 focuses on what our governments do for us. So do a quick reminder about that governments make, enforce, and interpret the laws at the town, state, and country levels. We have a worksheet about the functions of government, and that worksheet should be completed as we go through the rest of the lesson. So in this, we want to define the word of function. We want to come up with the main 3 of establish and maintain order, protect people, and provide services. Then we can read functions of our government. This is also a good time to work together either as a class or in small groups to brainstorm some goods and services that the governments provide. Ask students to reflect on why our government provides services. And this might be simply that someone needs to figure out how the snow is going to get plowed rather than everyone trying to do it and it not getting done well. Lesson 8 is the summative. For the summative, students are going to write a response, either persuasive or informative, to the compelling question, and we're going to want to include at least 2 supporting reasons and examples in the response. Something else that you might consider is you might consider asking a member of the local government to come and speak to your class about what they do and their role in the government. I hope that this video was a helpful tool as you get ready to teach the Rules and Laws unit. Please reach out to your PLC leader, instructional coach, or curriculum facilitator if you are in need of any additional support or if you have any questions.